Welcome to Wesley Impact. Today I'll be looking again at the book of Matthew and those studies in that mid-part, and this time on the topic of the dangers of weeding. We highlight the importance of Lifeline, a vital service that was birthed from the very centre of Wesley Mission, and we welcome a guest who's put his hand up to initiate another lifeline, but this time to Aussie farmers in a bid to help loosen the grip of the heartbreaking stronghold that drought has brought for many people. Paul Kemp joins us to talk about Eat Dirt Drought campaign and what we can do to support those at the heart of this great Southland. Lovely to see you, Paul. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You're from Mergen, Queensland, and your region has received only 7 millimetres of rain, but even that is more than many people have known further inland, isn't it?
That is correct, yeah. There's farmers sort of further on. They've basically had no rain for 2 years.
So what is it that we're going to talk about what you do, but what is it that stirred your heart to do something?
We've got a small place up in Mergen and 320 acres, and we had a contractor in cleaning out some dams, and he told me a story of a farmer at Winton who couldn't sell his cattle and shot all his cattle and then took his own life.
Oh dear. And in that situation, when you shared that kind of story with others, what was the response?
The response was that, yeah, let's do something about them, about the situation. Let's go out and, show these people some hope.
So I know you're connected, very much involved at the Mergen District Baptist. It's a regional church, but it's a small church, but that's inevitable in a small area, isn't it?
Yep.
But was it there that the idea started to take ground?
It did. We've got a small men's group, and I sort of put it to the men's group, and they said, yeah, this is 7 odd guys. And yeah, they said, let's do it. Let's get out there and show them some love.
But you also had a link the other end.
Yep. There was a minister that she'd actually left Mergen a week before I actually got the idea, or God gave me the idea. And yeah, she was actually at Longreach.
So she got the people in her own uniting church, and you got the people down in your church, and before long you got a link together.
That's it. Yep.
So
well.
What sort of distance are we talking about that you're going to do?
Well, the trip to Longreach was 1,174 kilometres from home.
The exact number you've got.
Yeah, exactly.
But you've got this title, Eat Dirt Drought. How does that come about?
It actually, we had a lady that was actually helping us to get things moving to start off with, and yeah, we just brainstormed it and she came up with it.
And it's sort of caught on. Everybody's picked up.
It is. Yep. It's we've had phone calls from all over Australia, and donations from even Germany that's heard about us. So
tell us about that first trip. That was back in February, wasn't it?
We left on the 14th of February. Yeah.
Valentine's Day.
Well, yes. It was Valentine's Day, but it's pretty special to me because 14th of February. It's actually my wife's birthday. Yeah. And it was 5 years to the day that I gave my life to Jesus.
So it's a very special time. I'm going to talk about that in a moment. But before I talk about that, you move on and you do that trip. How did people get involved?
We once the media, local media at home actually got hold of it. It just it snowballed, and everyone wanted to help.
So people basically give hay?
Basically, yeah, they gave hay. They gave donations for hay. We took out a 4-wheel drive loaded of Anzac biscuits and fruitcakes to hand out. Everyone sort of got involved.
It's hard for people to imagine sometimes what it must be like for people to have to face a drought, because it isn't just that you're not getting something from the land, but basic necessities are short, aren't they?
They are. There was one lady out there, because we took care packages, and there was one lady out there that hadn't actually washed her hair with shampoo for 7 months, and that's things that we sort of take for granted. And you think, no washing. Well, I don't have the problem washing my hair, but these people, it's a big thing.
And the response when you're able to hand over these goods is a real opening of the heart moment.
It was they did not actually believe that someone that didn't know any of these people would actually do something to help them out. And yeah.
Well, let's come back in a moment or two and talk a little bit more. But what I want to do first, if I can, is introduce today's performer. Matt Doland is a worship leader in Australia's east coast town of Port Macquarie. And his song really typifies, I think, Paul's testimony and life journey that we're going to talk a little more about. Here's Matt singing Stand Up.
Be inspired by Keith Garner's new book, The Authentic Australian Evangelist, Alan Walker. Former Superintendent Alan Walker was once labelled the conscience of the nation, speaking out for the marginalised and the broken across social, political and international debate. Alan's life and work at Wesley Mission is also featured in an address by Keith Garner on DVD. For more information, call 1800 021 821 or visit our website wesleymission.org.au.
And Matt's song was so appropriate, Standing Up to Lend a Hand. And if you'd like to know more about Matt and his music, details are going to be online all this week, as will information about this wonderful campaign, Eat Dirt Drought. We've got a campaigner, Paul, who was very much at the heart of all this. Now, Aussie farmers have characteristics, I think. There is that's the strength, the pride in what they do. There's also a privacy sometimes, you know, not the kind of people who are out there shouting about things. So what was the response to this idea that you had, the guys at the church got it? What was the response from other than just the people in the church?
Yeah, it was a fantastic response. Yeah, all over Australia, it's been a fantastic response. The response to the farmers when we actually went out to Longreach, when we actually took the fodder and the stuff out there, they said, oh, you know, give some more to the neighbour. You know, he's worse off than what we are, and that's what we're sort of finding. They sort of don't want to accept everything, but they want to sort of help everyone else out.
That tells you something very important too.
Yeah.
And you've got more trips planned?
We have. We've done some local runs up around southeast Queensland. We've done some local ones up there. But we're sort of planning to go further west, and we're going to Windora, and we sort of planned that end of May, hopefully.
Now, I'll make sure our guys have got details about this on the website, but how can people help?
We've actually got a website, Eat Dirt Drought, and if they want to have a look at that, or...
So just bang that in the search engine,
yeah,
they'll find it.
That will.
And there's an access there if people wanted to give money or they wanted to give...
There's an account details and, yeah.
Perfect, perfect, because people will want to do that. Now, your involvement with Eat Dirt Drought really comes after you've reached in your own life a point which was a low point 5 years ago. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, I was suffering pretty bad with depression 5 years ago. I'd lost my mum and dad 5 weeks and 3 days apart. And I was standing on a wheelie bin with a rope around my neck. So yeah, I prayed out to God that He would look after my 2 girls, and I believe He actually spoke to me. He said, "Get off the bin. I got something bigger and better for you to do."
And was it through the witness of particular people?
I had a great mate that actually he sort of stuck by me through thick and thin, and
and he helped to lead you to Christ, as it were.
He did. Yeah.
Yeah, and that became a turning point. So for you, belonging to Christ, did that open a new way of living life for you?
It did, yeah, very much so. I used to worry about everything, and now, I still worry, but I pass it all over to God. He's got the plans. And
He's given you in this idea something where you don't just survive in life, you actually can do things for other people.
That's exactly right, yeah.
What do you seek to share to other people then? Because surely when you've been through that kind of experience, when you're sharing faith, what are you able to say to them?
It basically comes down to one word, that's hope. And it doesn't matter how bad things are, there's a hope in Jesus.
And I think the combination of this hope, when it goes into a situation that might appear hopeless in the Queensland context and all across Australia, where people are feeling hopeless because of their economics or because of the land and what's not happening at this point in time. If you can combine that with the hope of Christ, that's an amazing thing, isn't it?
It is, yeah, it truly is.
And in Longreach, when you were offering out these things to people, did you find that people not only looked after each other people, but it sort of started changing them as well?
It really, really did. It changes their attitude, you know, and like we had a barbecue with the farmers and their families after we unloaded the equipment, and we sat around and talked, and it was fantastic that we had an opportunity to actually share Jesus with them.
And probably these people are used to folks not doing things, so to do something like that.
Yeah. Well, they're a very, very tight community. Like, farmers, they sort of stick to themselves, and they don't sort of worry too much about sort of too much other than the farm. And it was good to sort of get people together, and
Well, it's lovely for you, in a way, to put Murgon on the map, really, in this sense. You've really taken the story here, and you've got something that people will know the place for now.
Yeah, well, it's certainly known. It's known all over Australia, and yeah, we're known into Germany. So yeah, we're.
Look, and I also want to say, your church is not a huge church of thousands of people, is it?
No, no. On a good Sunday, on a very good Sunday, we'd have 45.
Yeah. Well, I think that's important to say, because I think that so often we think of the big things being done by big centres. From a small beginning there, an amazing work has gone on. So we wish you well with it, Paul, and I hope people do log on and find that they can give something to support this important work that you're doing.
Thank you very much.
We'll be back in just a moment.
It's been 200 years since the first Methodists met in Australia. To celebrate 2 centuries of faith and pioneering care, CEO and presenter Reverend Dr. Keith Garner takes us back to where it all began.
But we don't begin here at the heart of London. We begin in a town in the north of England.
In this fascinating narrative, Reverend Garner chronicles the history of the life and times of the founder of Methodism, John Wesley. This fresh and thought-provoking documentary takes us on a journey throughout the United Kingdom, beginning in John Wesley's hometown of Epworth.
John Wesley was born here on the 17th of June, 1703.
This 1-hour DVD travels onto his education years and beginnings of social justice in Oxford, to his final years in London. For more information on John Wesley, the man and his mission, call 02 9263 5555 or email us at impacttv@wesleymission.org.au.
The enormity of the drought currently affecting many Australians cannot be ignored any longer. Suicide is a sensitive and painful issue for those left behind, especially in very small communities where everyone knows everyone else. As Paul has shared, we all have a role to play in reaching out to neighbours who are desperate in need. Lifeline is one immediate way that people can reach out for support. Today we look at how Wesley Mission established this vital service more than 50 years ago.
Lifeline was born when we discovered the power of the telephone.
A new £40,000 Lifeline Centre is opened in Sydney by Lord Mayor Jensen. The centre, a project of the Methodist Central Mission, will maintain a 24 hours a day service to people who want help, and particularly people with emotional problems.
Well, originally, Alan Walker, he had people calling him day and night. And he called a group of us to his home at Roseville, and he said, now what can we do? I can't cope with it. They're ringing me at the office, they're ringing me at home, people suicidal, people with all kinds of trouble. And so there we met and discussed this situation. We prayed, we talked, we met, I don't know how many times, until someone said, why don't we have a central spot where people could ring and we could try and help them through that, have someone on a telephone. And that's how Lifeline was born, virtually. Then after organising everything, what will we call it? Someone said Lifeline. This is a lifeline, throw out the lifeline. You know the hymn? Throw out the lifeline, yeah. Someone is thinking today.
The Central Methodist Mission's Fellowship House in Sydney starts a Saturday night teenage cabaret. There's a capacity crowd of 550 teenagers, and the £65,000 community centre is really jumping.
Well, actually, my wife and I were involved with teenage cabaret and all sorts of things. We said, no, we haven't got time to serve on Lifeline. But we did the training, which was very simple in those days. And Lifeline had been going 2 or 3 days, I think, when they called us and said, oh, look, we need your help. So we started then. We had a trouble team to go to these people. Counsellors couldn't send the trouble team. We had to have a referral officer. So it was referred, and then if permission was given, trouble team went to them.
Lifeline is an idea that has gone international. Without intention or planning, it seems, spreading out on the Sydney pattern, centres have established themselves across Australia and round the world.
Alan wrote a book, How Jesus Helped People, and that was our basic training. And that's how we started. We were rather naive, but I believe we helped many, many people And that was all that built Lifeline into what it is today.
Last week, I spoke from Matthew 13 on the parable of the soils. Sometimes we know it as the parable of the sower. I continue in the same chapter, a marvellous chapter of parables, and pick up something of the same theme, but with a different application. So I'm going to read to you verses 24 to 30 in this wonderful chapter of parables. Jesus told them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like a man who sowed good seed in his field. But while everyone was sleeping, his enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat and went away. When the weeds sprouted and formed heads, then other weeds also appeared. The owner's servants came to him and said, "Sir, didn't you sow good seed in your field? Where then did the weeds come from?" "An enemy did this," he replied. The servants asked him, "Do you want us to go and pull them up?" "No," he answered, "because while you're pulling up the weeds, you may uproot the wheat with them. Let both grow together until the harvest. At that time, I'll tell the harvesters, first collect the weeds and then bundle them to be burned, then gather in the wheat and bring them into the barn." Now there's a theme, familiar, but a different angle. If last week we talked about the mystery of germination and growth, this week I'm talking about the mystery of weeds, and these all have a gospel application. Now I want to make a confession. I'm no gardener. I've never been one and have no aspiration to take up the task. Carol, my wife, is the one who does the gardening at home, and sometimes we come back from an appointment on a Saturday and she'll say, "I've got to do something in the garden." And I'll say, "What for?" Because to my amateur eyes, the garden looks fine, it looks okay, but she knows different. And I wonder what the origin and purpose of weeds are. Sometimes you say, whatever is that for? But they clearly have a link to evil in some way in the teaching of Jesus, in a way that help us to understand that gardens are teachers of great truths. One or two thoughts come to my mind. In life, we've got to know the difference between a weed and a useful plant. Now, apply that, obviously, outside the garden into wider things, the things that are good and the things that are bad. And you don't have to cultivate weeds that grow in a manner that I'm sure we might call at least prolific. So it is with bad things in our lives. You don't really have to harvest them by doing things to make them grow, because they naturally grow. There's a danger in pulling weeds, and this can lead us to accidentally uproot good plants. That's why the teaching of Jesus says, no, we let them grow together and then we sort them out later. However, to fail to weed in the end has one obvious result: a messy garden. So in our lives, in the world around us, there are times in which we have to be about the task of weeding. We have to sort out, we have to sift, we have to pull those things that are useless, unhelpful, and damaging to our lives. And I think that these strong words of Jesus sort of remind me that weeds can appear very quickly, and they are very, very damaging. They can destroy our lives and destroy the life of the world. In our community life, in the world around us, there are things that are not helpful that are growing, and we have to be able to make that very careful separation for what is good from what is bad. That's so much found in the teaching of Jesus again and again and again. And here, what we have is Jesus pointing out very clearly that the two grow together. Sometimes they can even look the same. Sometimes when we look out on the garden, as I do as an amateur, when my wife says I've got to get in there doing some weeding, I say, well, it looks okay to me. She knows better, and God knows better than all of us, because he knows there are those things that will destroy, that will strangle, that will have a bad hold on our lives if we don't handle them in the very early stages, if we don't deal with them, and if we don't pull them when it's appropriate to pull them. We have to be aware that what Jesus was saying has a very real application to life today. It's something that we can't ignore. It's something that we must recognize. We can only answer it personally in our own lives. We can certainly see it in the world around us. But when these weeds appear, And they may come surreptitiously, but they may come very quickly. We better be on the lookout for them, because only by looking out, seeing them, can we do something about it. So Jesus gives us another practical help by pulling the weeds.
If you would like to know more about today's topic, or for more on Keith's message, contact Keith by writing to Wesley Mission, Post Office Box A5555, Sydney South 1235, or email impacttv@wesleymission.org.au.
Thanks for joining us. We leave you with Lee Cunningham singing Brothers. We're always grateful for our regular viewers, and if you're a new one, join us next week. Goodbye and God bless you.
In a world where everything fades and nothing remains, and it seems no one stands by you if there's nothing to gain. When the world's walking out, you'll find me walking in. Nothing to say, it's the way that it's always been. We are brothers. Through the rain and the fire, we will fight for each other. My friend, we've seen seasons of prosperity and of pain. Through the rain and the fire, the blood will remain. Facing into the breeze as the winds of circumstance blow. Hold strong to the ones in our